YouTube, Quinn Way, coming to y'all with that basketball analysis on the NBA draft. This is a mock draft. Obviously, the draft is next week and the lottery already happened. So we already have an idea of what can happen. This doesn't take account that teams might want to trade back or they might want to trade for a superstar or they might want to trade down in the draft. This just goes based off how talented these guys are, how good they are, and just remember, just because you trade for a player, they still technically get drafted in that spot. That you picked them in. It just goes to a different team that wanted the player, even if they are already in the NBA. So now that that's out the way for the people that's novices, we look at the Atlanta Hawks. I feel like this is a huge move. People like the Zachary type of guy going number one in this draft, a 6'9", 204-pound guy. Gotta get a little more strength. Gotta get a little bit more weight on there on that body. But I like him in the top 10. I like him possibly going number one. This is the type of guy that you see a lot of people want in the modern game. Can play the three, can play the four, can hybrid over to the center depending on if it's a small ball or a micro ball lineup. And the fact that he has multiple ways that he can score. It's interesting to see him go to a team like Atlanta. Quinn Snyder is one of the best development type of guys. He can put you in the right positions. He can make you look good. He can allow teammates to do it too. And I feel like he can really grow the right way with this particular team. But I don't know if they really want him that bad because he is a project. Do Trae Young want to wait? He's been a guy that wants to win now, and he has helped them get to the Eastern Conference Finals already, as a young guy. And then you still have DeJounte Murray, who does fit well with this guy, and so does Trae Young. But it does get you to the point where, will he hit his ceiling with this team, or do they just make him that much better and integrate him to make everything easier? And then he looks like a Chet Holmgren last year, where he's not in the way, he's not a bad fit. He kind of gives you everything that you need and can just really just make y'all jobs easier in return. And if you get what you give and you can make his job easier and he can make yours easier, that makes for a better team and a better flow. So I like that. Then the same thing, Alex Sarr, a guy that's 7'1", 205 pounds. He's really not where he needs to be body wise to play in the NBA. Most centers are about 240, 250. They're going to be strong. They're going to be pounding him. They're going to be, getting into his chest. They're going to be knocking him out of the way when it comes to rebounds. And it makes a lot of sense, because he is young. But I like him. I like the fundamentals. I like what he can do in the paint. He's an elite rim protector with great size, and he can be able to have a little finesse with that pick and pop ability to hit mid-range jump shots. But, the Wizards are a developing team. They have nothing really crazy to look forward to besides Jordan Poole development. Jordan Poole hasn't really played with a, center like this, especially because he has more green light to hold the ball a little bit more to dribble, more shot selection is what he's going to get in this type of team with the Wizards, and Alex Sarr is going to get the same. But it's just about taking it slow with this guy. It takes centers a little longer to learn post moves, and sometimes you just need to simplify it anyway. And since he already has a thing that already works, which is the mid-range jumper, you want to see, can he stretch it out just a little bit more as he gets older to be able to just knock it down when it matters, or knock it down if he's open, and just having the pure confidence that he can do it. But these first two make sense, even if they want to trade them or even if they want to trade down. It makes sense for them just to draft them just because they're great fits to where they are right now, and it makes sense for them to get a guy that can come right in with young talent and really, mesh well with them. But if you don't literally like Alex Sarr, Donovan is the next guy. Klingon, 7'2", he has the body, 280, maybe a little bit too much weight, maybe a little bit too much strength. It makes it harder to get that jump shot going when you're that big and you're that strong. But they can figure that out. He's only was a sophomore in UConn before he entered for the draft, so he understands the game. He has high IQ of where to be and where he needs to do. This is something that will be more questionable because they already have a big down there in Houston, and they already have a guy that they like. And do he really want to come in as a backup? Do he really want to play for a team that don't look at him as a starter? And there's going to be a couple more teams like the Spurs who are really next. They got him taking Stephon, and I would look at Stephon as a decent player for them because they have a lot of guards, but they do need shooting, they do need scoring, and it's always questionable, can a guard come in and make impact shooting the basketball, because it's hit or miss sometimes. But he has the right body, he has the right size, he has the right weight, he has the right strength, he has the right handle to be a exceptional player. But I can see the Spurs trying to get out of this one because you need more of a point guard. And if you don't, you kind of need to continue to develop the guards and the wings that you already have on roster, since Wembanyama is one of the best players in the league already, and he really showed that, averaging 20 and 10. But the Rockets, I can see them trading down because I don't really see them not getting the guy that they want at the top, which makes sense. But if you can't trade up, you might as well trade down and get players that you need. And I don't think the Rockets do that these last couple of drafts, where they don't really want some of these guys, so they go for the guy that they actually want, which makes more sense when you're still growing your team, because they're not a playoff team right now, but they're growing towards that spot. And more experience and more growth is all that they, weighing what they need to have right now. And Ime understands it. Like, he knows what it takes for these guys to get to where they have to go. And that's always going to be essential. And the Pistons are the same. Like, they have a chance to get a 6'9" guy that has the strength and some type of shooting ability. And, that's just the project part of it. And they already had that with Jaden Ivey. They already had that with Jalen Duran. Obviously, Cade Cunningham was one of the most NBA-ready guards in the league, and he averaged 22, 7, and 5 this year almost, and decent efficiency. So he lived up to the hype so far. Now you got to get other guys that can, and they have been moving a lot of forwards out, of Detroit, and it makes sense for them to do that. If they can't find a guy with the work ethic, and they can't find a guy that's really trying to be a guy that can change the culture or form and really develop in that culture like they need. But this guy Matas can really play multiple positions for what I see and what I hear, and he's a guy that wants to defend, but he's still gonna have to grow that offensive game if he wants to be, heralded as a great player. And then the Charlotte Hornets, this is a team that has a superstar type of caliber player like LaMelo Ball. He made all-star teams before. He can pass the ball. He can score the ball. And this is just a tough one. Reed Shepherd, a 6'3", 187-pound guard. He's well with his three-point shooting. He has shot over 50% from deep during that year at Kentucky. He's probably on board, for that. I can trade down and get this guy because he's not valued as high. But since we have to draft somebody, we want to go with a guy that can really fit what we do. And Reed Shepherd is a guy that averaged 12 points. He is a guy that got 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and averaged 2.5 steals in 29 minutes. That's above average, for a guy. If you increase his role and increase his IQ, he can be a real difference maker. And I can see why Charlotte would want to keep him, or I can see why he'd be off the board a little earlier, especially if his three-point shot still, works, in these workouts, and he still has it at the NBA level, because the NBA level is a little bit longer than the college level. And if he shows a little bit of spotlight there, I can see him being off the board earlier, or I can see him taken within the top, 6 like he's supposed to. Portland Trailblazers, they're projected to get a Cody Williams. He's an intriguing player only because of his ability to be a 6'8", 185-pound small forward, and he has the ability to still grow, and that's height, size, and body because of his age. So this guy has huge potential, huge ability to be a difference maker on the both ends of the court because of his length and his size. He do need to gain a lot of more strength and a lot more muscle for that frame that he has, and his strength to be able to finish in the paint and to be able to get that ball going to the basket. So he's going to be in a tough situation starting out. I don't know if somebody really want to take that gamble. This is a project guy that you have to do a lot of development in skills and in IQ and with the body, and that's a lot of work that you actually have to do for him to really start looking like a promised player. And this one guy, I don't really want to know how. I don't know how to say his name, but he's from Charlotte, France. He's 6'9", 203 pounds. Another one of those topsy-turvy type of guys that he can give you a lot of speed, a lot of quickness, a lot of explosion. But can he really make a difference for a team down the line if he can't shoot the ball or space the floor? Like, you need guys that can do both. I need you to defend and I need you to space the floor, or I need at least need you to be a decent 3-point shooter that can put the ball on the floor and get to the basket to collapse the defense or probe the defense so they can make it easier for your teammates. And that's something that we don't really know. 13 points, 5 rebounds in 25 minutes is decent, but it wasn't against high level competition. It wasn't against the best competition that you can see. Even in college, I would say the college competition probably was better than what he went in against in France. But the body is there, the length is there, the know-how for that type of competition is there. But the NBA is just another level, and it's a question: can he really make a major impact? And Dalton is the same. They have him going to Memphis, and I just don't see that happening. Like, the Memphis have too many guards, and there is so many that would be available just in free agency, just to stitch into a playoff team. And Ja Morant obviously going to be looking at this with the GM saying, who can we really get that can come in and make a difference? And I would say Dalton isn't that guy. He was one of the best scorers in college. He is a guy that you can't really give too many minutes there because you got Desmond Bane already, and he's going to take the bulk of those minutes, and they already have backup guards, for the rest. So he's going to have a huge weight and a huge learning curve because Utah is going to be the same for him and Devin Carter, who they have going 10th out of Providence. He's a junior. He understands because he had to do it in college. I didn't make it as a freshman. I didn't make it as a sophomore. My value is at its highest as a junior. But, I averaged 19 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal in 35 minutes. Those are great minutes. And Utah does need more, at that point guard position, not just for a starter, but just in general. They need more talent. They need more guys that know how to play and know how to play, from the jump, from the start. And that's why I do like him going to the Jazz at 10. He's not coming here to step on no toes or take nobody's spot, but he does fit that need of, we need more depth on the cheap so that way we can still compete in the Western Conference that's getting tougher and harder each and every year. And I feel like this guy is a guy that they can rely on and a guy that understands what they need and can come in and contribute right away. Just remember, them 8 rebounds do sound a little hilarious because he's only 6'3", 95 pounds, but it's true. This guy is actually doing that in college. We'll see how it works in the NBA. But he does need to work on his passing and his playmaking and understanding, how to keep his head up to make these plays more accurately and, let them happen more often. And he might as well cut a little bit down on the scoring just because that team has some bigs that, you got to keep happy too. Chicago, Kel L. Ware is another center. He's 7 feet, 223 pounds. He's a mixed bag. I would say, he gives you decent rim protection, which they do kind of need in Chicago. And he does give you, some pick and roll ability. He got the speed, he got the quickness, he got the length, he got the size to finish at the rim. He got the ability to sneak up on you if you don't pay attention. And I feel like they do need a big that can contribute and a guy that can understand that. And most of these guys understand that when they done it in high school and they done it in college, especially because he's not a freshman, he's a sophomore. His coach would tell him in Indiana, you're that guy that they will need, sporadically. And if you can accept that role, you can do that for 10 plus years in the NBA because so many players have done it. Just come in and do what you're supposed to do and do what we require you to do. And even if you start overachieving, you have the teammates there to spread the wealth with. Oklahoma City Thunder, Jacoby Walter, 6'5", 195 pounds, out of Bel Air. A lot of people liked him. He's more of a project, but he got the NBA body already, which is always important. So that's one thing you don't have to work on. You can work on the skills, and you can work on your ability, how to pass and how to score, and how to stay out the way, and that's important to this game, and especially because he's a freshman. He's one of the highest drafted guys that's drafted, to be a freshman, especially out of Baylor. And I do think the Thunder will look at this and say, well, we got Dort, but we just get another guard out there, because Shea is really a shooting guard playing like a point guard just because he's the best player. You usually want your best playmaker and scorer having the ball in their hands, especially if they're a guard. And it just makes sense just to add depth. Like, even if he's just the best player available that they can get at 12, which could actually become true, then you should just take him for that. Carlton, Bub Carrington, he's a guard. He's 6'5". He's about 5 pounds lighter than the guy ahead of him, which I would say 5 pounds makes sense if it's in muscle. And when you look at this guy out of Pittsburgh, he's a freshman too. He's projected to be a mid to late first round pick all season, but he catapulted to the lottery during the workouts. Guys got a chance to meet him and see how he really can perform, see how he really is as a person, and see how he really is prepared for the NBA level, especially when you look at his body and his size and his length and his ability to play on and off the ball. That's something that's going to still need some development in, is going to need some grinding in, and then you're going to have to see if is his patience going to be there. And the last one is Keyshawn George. I feel like he's a decent player. He needs some more muscle. He needs some more strength. He needs to shooting. He's a freshman out of Miami, 6'8", 200 pounds. That's not going to be enough right away. But if he goes to the Blazers, it's a rebuild where for sure they're going for best fit or they're going for best potential. And I feel like he's going to be the best you can get, with that type of size. And they need more length at that position, especially because they're the one that they have there is getting a little older, and you need them to grow with the young players that you have already on the roster, because Portland is basically rebuilding at this point, especially after they lost a franchise player that got them to the playoffs for so many years. But he only averaged 7.6 points during 1 year in Miami, but he shot 41% from three. And this is a year that's very key to what makes him special, because they always looking at the 3-point shot, because a lot of the players in the NBA have to have that as a skill to really make it. And he already shows confidence that he's willing to take it. He wants to shoot it. He wants to do it. And that's what he has to do. Every single game is be a 3-point threat out there for, a team like Portland, or a team that drafts him a little higher and takes that gamble. The sharpshooting, is important to modern culture and modern basketball. So that's what I say. And I'll give y'all another one. We say it because it's Miami and they're champions. They always in the contention, and they always trying to develop guys that's undrafted or late in the draft, and they finally got some decent picks. And I would say Jared McClain is a guy that is always headed, to that direction out of Duke. 6'3", 195 pounds. That's about where you want it to be at, body-wise, strength-wise, muscle-wise. And, he has 3-point range on that shot. And he has a quick release, and it's very difficult, for people to get up in him and get, to a closeout on this guy. And he has that killer instinct that you need, and he has that motivation to be better. It shows in his body. It shows in the jump shot. He knows what the NBA wants, going into the draft, and he already supplies a lot of that, and he's an NBA-ready player. And that's what you need if you're Miami Heat. You're still on the brink of contending. You're on the brink of retooling, and this will be a good pickup and probably a trade piece in the future, because they can either trade this guy when they draft him, or they can trade down in the draft, or they can even trade him for another big piece by adding him and him and him with a guy like this or a pick like this. And, especially because if you can get a guy like this that's high value and ready, NBA wise, that can, finally make a trade go through. And I feel like that's important. Other than that, I do the Sixers. 16th is Philadelphia 76ers, Rob Dillingham. He's a 6'2", 164-pound guy. He just don't have enough body and not enough mass, not enough strength he's going to be a development project. I don't really see Philly taking him for that reason. You want to have trade assets, or you want a guy that can come in and contribute because you're still trying to make the playoffs and you're still trying to have that run with Joel Embiid as your franchise guy. The process still is trying to win a championship down there, and I feel like this pick is valuable depending on who's left on the board. Best player available will make this pick more valuable. As the draft goes on and as they get out of the lottery, you're going to see a lot of these guys either underdeveloped, you know, shooting less from the three. You're going to see them just guys with big bodies and high potential and not enough weight and strength and mass. And you're going to see them not be great scorers. And I feel like that makes a lot of sense, because that's how the draft usually goes outside of the lottery. You have some guys that put it all in for the NBA draft. They prepared for this their whole entire life. They want to be able to be shooting threes in high school, being dominant in high school, being a guy that can dominate from high school to college. And that's why you always see that small group of guys that always say, we want to play in the NBA. We had this goal set for us in a long time for middle school to high school to college, and they get their bodies ready, they get their style ready, they get their playing ready for that game. And that's why we always say that lottery is that cutoff where some guy just decided, now I'll play in the NBA, or now I'll take it serious, or now since I'm in the draft, this gonna be my career now. And that's just a big separation for the guys that was doing that their whole entire life and was waiting for this moment. And this is why the draft is essential. Like, do you want a guy that maybe turns into a great player, or do you have a guy that vision was always, I want to be a great player, I want to be in the NBA, this is a dream of mine, this is what I really want to do, and this is the plan A, not plan B, C, D, or even just putting that extra effort to make it, the plan that it is today. And that's a separation of a lot of these guys, and you can just see it in their body, you can see it in their play, you can see it in their attitude, you can see it a lot in these combines, you can see it a lot when you talk and conversate with these guys where their head game was at 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago, and where it is today. And you can tell by their play since it's recorded if they really are those guys that you want. But by you having to draft 60 guys, it still makes sense, to make the best out of your picks, even if you got to trade them early, or even if it's a risk to trade anyway because of the potential of them getting better in the future. But it's something that you got to take. Other than that, some guys are just going to be role players. You still need those guys that's all NBA third team that can be an all-star but not an all NBA player because it contributes to winning. Some of these guys are just going to help you win because they're going to be great rebounders and scorers, or they're going to be great defenders and shooters, or they're going to be guys like a Jamal Murray or a Michael Porter Jr. or a guy like Derek White or a guy like Drew Holiday. They might not get their credit every year for both ends of the court, but they are huge deciding factors on who wins and who loses in a team game, which is the NBA. And I think that's essential to looking at this draft. Not a lot of superstars or franchise players, probably not even one, but you got a lot of guys that can come in and contribute and play hard and do what they're supposed to do on the court, just like you've seen in the finals. That those players still get their shine, but they're essential to you being on top of your game because that's who's pushing you to stay great, or that's who needs you to stay great, when it comes to team basketball. But other than that, let me know what you guys think. Comment, like, subscribe, and share, and hit the notification bell for more analysis. Quinn Wade signing out. Peace.